Chapter 1, Roadmap to a Pilot Career. Okay, good afternoon everybody, or well, good afternoon from my side. Today we're going to be talking about a pilot's career, or the roadmap for a pilot's career if you come from South Africa or if you come from Lesotho. So, of course, the number one thing that you have to get is the appropriate license, the appropriate commercial pilot license. Now, with this, you've got two choices. The first choice being modular and the second one being integrated. Now, with an integrated course, that is a little bit more expensive, but it is a course that can be achieved a lot more faster. An integrated course, as far as I understand, includes a frozen ATPL, that is an airline transport pilot license, multi-engine piston, as well as an instrument rating. It may also include an MCC, which is a multi-crew corporation certification. So that is integrated, but with integrated, this is something that's more tailored towards individuals who are already or have already lined up positions within an operator, usually an airline. So that is a first officer position. And for the most part, these are individuals from countries like Tanzania, Cameroon, or Vietnam Airlines. So either you are enrolled in a cadet program with a national carrier or whichever carrier it may be for that particular country, or they say that you must have X amount of credentials, that is an FATPL, etc., etc., and then you'd be eligible to apply for a first officer position within that airline. That is not the case within South Africa as well as for Lesotho during this current situation. Now, with a modular course, you can even break that down into or tailor it into anything specific to meet your needs. So starting with the basics, you can get yourself a commercial pilot license, single engine piston, and an instructor's rating. Second to that, you can get yourself a commercial pilot license, single engine piston, with an instrument rating plus an instructor's rating. Now, if you have the funds available, and as you can see, this is all dependent on your budget. If you do have the funds available, you can go full on by getting the commercial pilot license, multi-engine piston, instrument rating, as well as the instructor's rating. As you can see here, the common theme is getting the instructor's rating. Chapter 2, Graduate Low Time Jobs. So once you've completed your basic training, your options are actually quite limited as to what jobs you can do once you've graduated. Now, the most or the largest opportunity that you have available to you is actually becoming an instructor. Now, if you have networked during the period of which you've been doing your training, or you have been born into a family of aviators, then perhaps you can apply to work as a pilot within a small to medium enterprises flight department, flying, Cessna 206s or Cessna 172s, transporting staff from various business sites. Or you could apply to be a game pilot within sandparks. But of course, in this situation, you have to be a South African citizen for the most part. Well, not for the most part, you have to be a South African citizen. And in addition, I have heard getting a job as a game pilot in South Africa is actually very challenging, lots of competition. Now, you may think as a game pilot that is mostly reserved for helicopter pilots. I would agree to that, but you could be a fixed wing game pilot where you could be doing game census or tracking of animals, or you could be transporting staff from various points across the park, because of course the park itself is quite large. Part 135 Jump. So, now that you have gained experience as an instructor, or whether you're involved as a game pilot, or may it be a pilot in a small to medium enterprises flight department, it is your choice whether if you would like to continue within those areas. However, at this point, you'd be a lot more eligible for Part 135 operations. So, for example, starting off with Botswana, there is a 500-hour rule. So, if you have less than 500 hours total time, don't even think of applying. So, the reason for this is to protect the local pilot development market. So once you have 500 hours of flying time, you could apply to be a bush pilot. And as a bush pilot, you'd be flying Cessna 206s or Cessna 210s. And particularly in Botswana, it would be within the Delta area. Not the Delta variant for something else, but the Delta area within Botswana. So the biggest operators for bush flying in Botswana is Wilderness, or some of the biggest operators are Wilderness Air, Mac Air, and the like. You not only can apply to Botswana, but you could apply to Namibia as well as Tanzania. But if you're applying to Tanzania, most opportunities I think that are available are in the Cessna Grand Caravan, the C208B. C208B is also available as an opportunity in Botswana, but for the most part, you have to have 1,000 hours of total flying time. The reason behind this is based upon the insurance requirement for the minimum amount of hours that a crew member must have to fly the aircraft. I think perhaps for some other operators that might be 750, but I'm not sure, and it varies from operator to operator. Now, to apply for direct entry as a pilot for a caravan, that's a bit more challenging. They would most likely request that you do have caravan experience. So the best thing for you is just to apply to work as a Cessna 206 pilot, and you work your way up from there. The other type of Part 135 job that you can do is work as a contract pilot. Contract pilots usually fly Beechcraft B1900Ds, but even taking two steps back before that, typically you would be stationed within the flight operations department, being rotated in various roles, for example, dispatch, so that you can get a better understanding of the inner workings of its operation before you'd be assigned as a first officer in a B1900. So you can work your way up from there, first officer to captain. Now, working as a contract pilot, this can actually even be, a career in itself. Some people enjoy those type of environments, those type of operations, and stay within that. Same thing for being a bush pilot. Now, many operators or many South African operators not only have B1900s, but they may have Let 410s, or they may have an ATR 42 or an ATR 72. So you could, depending on the opportunities available, switch over to a Let 410 or move on up to an ATR 42 or 72. If you do move on up to that particular aircraft, it is a lot more relatable to a Part 121 operation in terms of its size and the amount of passengers it can carry. In actual fact, because it's larger than it carries more than 19 people, an ATR 42 or an ATR 72 should fit under a Part 121 operation strictly. Now, what does a contract operation typically do? Well, they typically serve clientele in countries like Mali, Chad, Algeria, Afghanistan. And they serve the NGO sector, the humanitarian sector, mining, and oil and gas, and so on and so forth. Talking about Afghanistan, of course, the biggest news that has hit the mainline news channels for the past couple of weeks is how, you know, a lot of the operators that have been based over there, Western operators as well as locals, have had to evacuate. So, just being specific to aviation here, you had a number of South African operators with their B1900s based in Kabul, in Afghanistan. So I understand it now that all the crew members and perhaps the aircraft as well has been um, evacuated or have left Kabul. So I'm glad everyone there is safe. So you can tell that if you do contract work, you can operate in hot and hostile environments. So you have to be prepared for that. So you may ask the question, who are the typical contract operators based in South Africa? Well, you have National Airways Corporation, you have Solenta Aviation, you have Sahel Aviation Services, which is actually based out of Bamako in Mali, but they use Zulu Sierra aircraft or South African registered aircraft. And there are a number of other contract operators based out of South Africa as well. I mean, Resilience Aviation, which has B1900s, as well as Cessna 208 caravans available. Part 121 jump. So, you've now gained experience in a Part 135 operation, and you're looking to jump to the Part 121 environment. However, with the recent events of the pandemic, I believe a lot of people have stayed on in the Part 135 operator. I think Part 135 operators have been a lot more resilient during these times as they have contracts with governments, NGOs, such as the UN. So there's a lot more stability within that. However, if you're an airline, a lot of your income is based upon passenger demand, cargo demand. Now, cargo has been doing pretty well, but passenger not so much. So if we look at the Part 121 environment globally, typically pre-COVID, what would usually happen is a number of people in the contract flying world would come and apply to the domestic and regional carriers based in South Africa. However, if you look at the South African environment now, we have had two state-owned enterprises who have gone into business rescue. One of them are planned to start operations again on September the 23rd, which is in a couple of weeks' time, which is South African Airways. The other one, SA Express, Mango Airlines has just gone into business rescue, and the last one is SA Express, which essentially has just been liquidated, which has been very unfortunate for all the staff members involved. So, state-owned enterprises have been essentially reduced or closed, and the dynamics within the private aviation sector has changed as well. You still have Comair with Kulula.com as well as British Airways brands. You still have Safair. Safair has fared fairly well during the pandemic. Been having the ability to operate mostly throughout the pandemic. Same with Airlink. Airlink has done exceptionally well, taking over a lot of the regional routes that SA used to have. And then you have Semair. Semair has exponentially grown during this time as well. Also taking over the routes that SA Express used to serve, taking on some of their staff members as well. So kudos to them for the growth that they have managed to achieve during this challenging period. And then you have a newcomer in the marketplace, which is Lift Airlines. So for South Africans in particular, then you have the opportunity to apply to these domestic airlines. However, I would say at this point in time, the South African pilot market has been flooded with a lot of experienced individuals who have come from the Middle East and East Asia and wherever else that they have been based. So going beyond South Africa, talking about the Middle East, pre-COVID, it used to be a lot of pilots would apply for, you know, the big carriers, Emirates Airlines, Qatar, and so on and so forth. But now, Middle East, I mean, they're starting to accept applications once more, but at this point, things are still a bit dicey. Going over to East Asia, opportunities that I would say are available at this point in time are related to freighter. So flying Airbus A300s and the Boeing 747 and much more. The Boeing 747 has managed to stay relevant in the marketplace because of its freighter capabilities, unlike its sister carrier, the Airbus A380, which essentially mostly carried packs, and that's not useful at this point in time. So, if you are an individual who is part of a Part 135 operation, a contract operator, I would say, and perhaps many would agree with me. If you don't, you can put a comment in the comment section below. But I think it would be wise to stay within your Part 135 job and wait for the international marketplace to gear up before starting to think of moving to any Part 121 operation. However, because of this experience that a lot of people have had, they may even just stay within a Part 135 operation. You've made it, but... Okay, so you've made it. You are now part of a 121 operation. You're flying your Boeing 737 or your Airbus A320, or you're in your Boeing 747, or you're in your Airbus A330 or A350, whatever ETOPS machine that you might be flying. There is a but. There is a but. As you can see, the aviation industry goes in cycles, and there's a very strong theme that it crashes every 10 years or so. It crashed in 2001 with the dot-com, it crashed in 2008 with the financial crisis, and it crashed in 2020 with the global pandemic. So always expect a crash to occur every 10 years or so, but when things are good, they're really good. But the point here is you have to mitigate your risk. Okay, there's a lot of risk involved in terms of stability of income, so always have a backup plan, which is just my opinion and recommendation. This is not something that's set in stone. Of course, everybody can do as they so wish. So have a backup plan. Perhaps study something secondary like IT so that you can apply to other positions that are still in demand, and at the same time, when things are good, make sure you're growing your investment portfolio. Invest in having one property, two properties to have rental income, invest in ETFs, etc., etc. Something there that will give you passive income that will allow you to live, survive. Of course, things are not so easy. Perhaps you have a lot of baggage behind you in terms of debt, responsibilities in terms of family members that you have to take care for. But just something to keep in mind. Ensure that you give yourself the opportunity to build that investment portfolio to help protect you financially when things go wrong. Third to that, you could invest in a business, whether it be an e-business or an actual physical establishment. I was about to give an example of restaurants, but with lockdowns, restaurants haven't fared so well, unless you're doing a delivery business. But the point is to invest in some form of business, service, or product-based that will generate you income and keep you busy during periods of downturns or industry crashes. So mitigate your risk, but of course at the same time, as I'm sure enjoy the journey, enjoy the milestones that you achieve, and enjoy the machine that you fly. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has been valuable to you. If you believe it has and you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. I publish videos on Wednesdays. I try to do it every Wednesday, but life may get in the way. So far, every Wednesday has been achieved except for the month of July. So please do subscribe, and my videos will pop up there. Thanks once again, and safe landings.